What's going on, everybody? It's the Hook Cam back again with another prediction for this weekend's wildcard games. Obviously, a big in-division rivalry as the Seahawks and Rams are going head-to-head. These teams split the season series, and it was really interesting actually going back and looking at the game plan of the Rams in the first game plan of the Rams in the second game, and I really saw some pretty major differences that were pretty questionable to me. And I know Jared Goff's dealing with it with an injury, and obviously that's going to have a pretty big impact on who I pick with this game. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive into some film. Before I get into that, though, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to my channel, The Hook Cam, as well as to Jackson Kruger Sports. That would mean the world to both of us. All right, let's dive into this film. So what I noticed about the Rams in their first game, first off, they ran the ball very, very well in the first game. They had three dudes who ran for 35 plus yards, which is over 100 yards. If you can rush for over 100 in the NFL, you're feeling good about yourself. Now, what the Rams do is they do such a good job of false keying, right? And a false key is essentially for you as a backer. If you're reading this play, you're thinking one thing and the ball goes another way. Okay, so in this situation, right, this looks like inside zone to a linebacker, right? You're going to be firing in this gap right here. Boom, boom. We're trying to get there, right? You can see them step forward, but we're not getting that action from the backfield, right? He's coming downhill and then he ends up bending this thing out this way, which is where essentially we have this wham or wrap guy lead us to. And all that you do for these backers is you're creating a ton of traffic for them. Okay, and on the outside, this big block right here, this is an outstanding job. If you can keep Jamal Adams not out of the game, because I don't really think you're going to be able to do that. Jamal Adams is a pretty damn good football player, as well as Bobby Wagner. But if you can get a body on those two guys, you're going to have a good chance to move the football if you're the Rams. And like I said, I think running the rock is absolutely vital to their success this weekend. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, that false key. Like we saw in the first play, right? We had that inside zone it looked like it was going to be, and then we end up getting almost like a counter look out of the running backs right here. We all know how much the Rams love to run this jet sweep. Every pro football focused nerd and all those guys are writing articles about this jet sweep right here, right? That motion, that jet motion. Well, what that does is it does a couple of things to the defense. You're going to bump backers, number one, right? They have no choice but to honor that. You're going to widen their end men on the line of scrimmage. And what that does for you is it basically puts backers right into your lap, or it makes them overshoot a play. Now, in this situation, this double team right here is the key to this play. And we're going to see these two guys right here work up, and then they work up to Bobby Wagner. And they get there a lot quicker because of that fly motion. Now, I've always been much more worrisome about this because I feel like you're bringing a guy to the play. The Rams have mastered this, though, and this works so well for them, and they know how to block this so well, right? And we're working Bobby Wagner. We know that we're going to get there with this awesome left tackle we have in Andrew Whitworth. Dude's an absolute all-world left tackle, absolute stud for however many years in the NFL, and they're ripping off gains. And a big part of that is them being able to false key right here, this wide zone. They do such a good job with this, and they do such a good job with working defenses, getting them uncomfortable. But not only that, right? Even their most basic of basic stuff right here. They don't really have a pre-snap motion on this play, but guess what? They don't need to. That's why. If you look at this thing ultimately, right, he's going to have to be responsible for this gap. We got this dude head up. So these two guys are going to be working out here to some extent, which means that we're basically going to get a manned up block right here, and then we have these two for these two. And then it's up to our back to make a cut off of that. So as we work, right, we stretch this thing outside. We see the butt of our left guard right here. We know that we have this straight arm. You can read this block. If you're a running back, you know you're going to end up cutting back off of that. And then once you cut back there, look at all of this green grass we have to work with. It's an absolutely beautiful job running this play, and the Rams have done really well with it. And if you're the Rams this Saturday, that's what you need to do to win this game. Now, again, a lot of it depends on Jared Goff. And one thing that I noticed in the game between the Rams and the Seahawks earlier in the season is, number one, Jared Goff was absolutely on point. Number two, the Rams did a great job of using empty to win. Number three, when the Seahawks went cover one, they were going to lose that matchup. And this is a really good example. This is the first third down of the game. Another thing I will say statistically, I think the Rams were like 60% in the first game, which is absolutely insane. But all we get here at the bottom, and sorry about this, all we get here at the bottom is a really simple curl, right? We're manned up at the bottom. He's pressed up. Let's see who's better one-on-one. Jared Goff is going to take his matchup. A decent route by the receiver. As soon as we get that cornerback's back to turn, we're going to break that thing off at the sticks. He keeps floating. Really easy first down for you to gain, right? And the Rams were able to do this, and then also on their third down, they were able to work empty into their game plan, which is something that they didn't do in the next game. And when you go empty, right, we have to remember this Seahawks defense isn't what it used to be. It's not. And it was a ton of fun to watch that defense back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean like 2013. But now, you got to worry about this dude, and you got to worry about Jamal Adams, and Jamal Adams isn't even the best in coverage. But outside of that, you can win your matchups one-on-one on the outside. And if you can catch these guys in cover one, which when the Rams went empty, they went cover one, you're going to win. You're going to win. This is Taylor Higbee against a defensive back. Not sure who that is for Seattle. He just works a really simple shake route. Boom, boom, right? We work this thing upfield. He gives that quick stick at the top of his route to the inside and then breaks it to the outside. Great route, man. Go ball from Jared Goff. Really, really simple man-beating route. And the Rams did this time and time again the first time they met, and they didn't do it the second time, right? Here's another example of them on third down. Motion that guy across. We're just going to bring a safety down. They're pretty much going to man up with us. They're going to drop off, though, because they're not trying to get torched by anybody. They do end up kind of working into a zone. Basically, they're just comboing these three guys, right? That's all they're doing. We're going to combo this. Whoever works to the outside, this corner is going to take. Whoever works inside, we have our Mike linebacker right here to wall off number 3 as well, and then whoever's working upfield, we're going to take with him. That's exactly what happens, right? But what you do with that on the backside of it, if you're the Rams, right? We know it's going to be man, which means that we know that we can make this look like he's going to chip, and then we're going to work him out on a little screen. And they got creative on third down. And like I said, for some reason they didn't do that in the Week 16 game. And I know Jared Goff was injured for sure, and I'm sure that was a big reason of it. But it was just something weird that I noticed, right? And then the other thing with the Rams that you always got to worry about is their play action. Just because they base so much stuff off of that off of that jet sweep motion, right, and off of their wide zone, you're going to have to account for their play action at some point in the game. And once again, the Seattle secondary isn't what it used to be. Right here, they work a really nice little double move at the top. We're going to get that safety to work across the field, and then we come across his face right here. Good ball from Jared. Well, not the best ball from Jared Goff, but you see what I'm saying. You're creating space downfield based off of your play action. Really interesting stuff. So now we work into this game later in the season, right? And what is Seattle doing on defense? What can they do defensively to mess with Jared Goff? This is a great thing to do if you're Seattle, okay? No, they don't have the best secondary right now. Jamal Adams is their version of Cam Chancellor these days. He's in the box. He's not the best coverage guy. Not at all. But what you can do to mess with Jared Goff is stuff like this up front. Make him think pre-snap. Don't just throw your dudes out there. Hey, we're in cover one. We're going to play off. We'll eat up anything in front of us. Yeah, that's a way to play. And if you're getting torched, absolutely do that. But this is, I think, how you beat Jared Goff and the Rams on third down is you try and confuse them pre-snap, right? Get these guys pointing, get these guys thinking, and then drop off, right? Like this, right? We're going to wall off number 3. We're working to wall off number 2. We're going to carry anything vertical right here. I mean, this is how you do it, right? And there's really more of like a read 2 where he carries vertical and he'll come into the flat. But you get 16 thinking he's not on his game, right? He's not working super well with his hots, right? With his hot routes and where he's going with the ball if he gets pressure. Even if he is thinking, hey, I'm going to get pressure, and he's trying to go to his hot, he's not seeing it right away. I feel like he's looking here. I mean, it's almost like he's got too much to think about on this play. He's not going to turn and rip that ball. He's going to try and get upfield and pick up some yardage. He doesn't, tries to get rid of it at the last second. Anyways, you can understand what I'm saying. Trying to create some chaos for him pre-snap, right? And this is the other thing that you can do. This is later in the game, I will say, and I do think that this is because Seattle was generating a pretty decent pass rush with their front four. So what the Rams did is they're chip releasing with these two guys. When you do that, you really limit what you can do outside of it, right? You're basically running a 2-man route with these two cats working downfield. You chip release, you work out into the flat with your 2 tight ends. It just limits what you can do, right? And there's only so much. And then on top of that, if you're getting heat on the passer, you're going to end up forcing a bad ball. So, and then the other thing that the Rams that they didn't do as well it's more of what the Seahawks did well, is they did a good job disguising what they do with Jamal Adams. At some point in the season, you can only blitz this guy so much to the point where teams are like, all right, we got to account for him. We have to account for this guy in the box. If he's lined up in the box, we have to have somebody there for him. We have to set the protection that way. We have to, set the back that way. We have to do something. So what the Seahawks did later is that they started messing with what Jamal Adams did. Okay, we're going to be up on the line, but we're going to drop into coverage. We're going to run man coverage with this, right? You're going to get whoever number 2 is coming across, whatever, something like that. That's what the Seahawks did in the second game that I noticed really worked for them. So if I'm the Rams, I definitely want to go more empty. I want to force them on the outsides to be one-on-one with my guys who I think can win. As far as the running game goes, you got to work your jet sweep into it. You got to work that motion into it, and you got to work your wide zone, your inside zone. Now, moving on to the Seahawks. What was different about them in the second time they played week 16 as opposed to the first time they played, which I want to say was in week 10? Not 100% sure. But a big thing was Chris Carson, absolutely. But more importantly, in my opinion, they were way better up front, especially on the interior. And then on top of that, they brought tight ends into the equation. They didn't really do this the first time they played. Again, I don't know why, but this is a very classic Seattle wide zone. Okay, in Seattle, everybody knows how good Russ is, absolutely. But when Russ first got in the league, this was a run-first football team, and I kind of think they got back to their basics later in the season with this. And this is a great example, right? This is exactly how you want to block wide zone, especially with 99 on the end right there. If he's going to line up out here with my tackle and my guard, we have to combo this. We got to get two hats on here, and we got to work this dude up into the, not necessarily into the box, because that's where these two cats are going, but working him out into that force player, right? Which is exactly what they do, and Chris Carson has phenomenal eyes for this wide zone. He really does a good job of cutting this thing back. Great block by your center right there in the middle of the field working on 69. This cat right here. I mean, they blocked so much better in this second game than they did in the first one, and I think Chris Carson absolutely helped with that. Alex Collins did not run these plays as well as Chris Carson does, and it's not exactly like Chris Carson is making dudes miss in the hole. It's not anything like that. I just think he's probably got a better grasp of things, but more importantly, they were better up front, right? And they're also getting a little bit more clever with how they're doing things. We're going to see a clip here in a second where this dude's not in the formation and we don't have this jet motion. Once again, not necessarily a jet motion, but you don't have this motion across the field. Once again, look what you do to the defense when you do this. This dude right here has to account for this guy coming across the formation. That's why he widens, right? Which moves him out of the box, which means we have one less dude to worry about. So now we can combo this right here up to this mic. We work upfield. Great job by 66 working in that second level. Chris Carson making that second cut, getting upfield, getting north-south. Those are things that make a difference, right? Now, here's the clip from the first game where we have Alex Collins in here. Now, notice a couple of things. Number one, we have no H-back right here, right? We got no H on either side, which means that, we're kind of naked back here, right? We got one-on-one, right? Great box to run against, absolutely. But we get worked right here by our left guard. This stuff can't happen. And once again, I think Chris Carson hits this probably a little bit quicker. This is obviously the gap that we're looking to, and that's where Alex Collins is working, absolutely. But he makes that, he actually isn't. He tries to make one extra cut, and it ends up burning him on this. But like I said, I think Chris Carson runs this a little bit better as far as the inside zone and wide zone goes. Here's another example of Alex Collins on the wide zone. Once again, I will say that when the Rams, in the second time they played, this dude wasn't there, and maybe I'll go back and find it, but this cat wasn't here, right? So it's a lot easier to block when really all you have to worry about is a defensive end and you work upfield, right? As opposed to this right here where our tight end's kind of getting manhandled. We got to try and cut this thing back basically off the bat, but still, I'm not a huge fan of how Alex Collins is running this, right? We're a little too indecisive. We can see as soon as he gets this football, right? We almost do like a little skip, and then we still try and push this thing outside. Man, we got to cut this thing back. That's what we're trying to do with this. Put your foot in the ground and get me yardage, which is not what Alex Collins did with that situation. Now, here is the play that I showed you guys earlier in the game. Once again, we don't have anybody out here for the Rams, right? We don't have our defensive end or our edge rusher, whatever people want to call it today, but that's a huge difference, right? Okay, this is super easy to block as opposed to what I just showed you guys in that other clip. Now, moving on. So now if I'm the Rams, when we're talking about trying to defend against Russell Wilson, there's a couple of things that I don't want. First things first, Russell Wilson's going to get his. That's just the bottom line. But I do not want him dropping bombs against my secondary. That's the bottom line, which I think the Rams did a really good job of in the first game. We're bracketing guys deep. He's got nowhere to go with this football, right? We do a really good job of syncing with our corner so he can't hit this crosser. He's only got one space to go with it, and it's down here, and there's three dudes around him. That's a really good job, right? And if I'm the Rams, I do not want Russell Wilson dropping absolute dimes against my defense, which means I don't want my guys one-on-one on an island, right? There's one dude in this Rams secondary who can do that. We all know who it is. It's Jalen Ramsey, which is why this matchup at the top is probably not one that Russ is going to take advantage of a lot of times. Now, the other thing the Rams need, especially if Jared Goff isn't playing, is they need Russ to make a mistake. Stuff like this is very un-Russell Wilson-like, right? This dude's a top 3, top 2, maybe the best quarterback in the NFL. This is a bad decision, dude. Take that ball, get me yardage. In this situation, he gets greedy, trying to hit this wheel on the back side of things. This corner sinks off, and he ends up picking it off. You need stuff like that to happen when you're playing the Seahawks. You need Russell Wilson to make a mistake. If he's perfect and he's slicing you up, chances are you're not going to win that football game. So anyway, guys, that's my breakdown for this thing. I hope you guys enjoyed. Prediction-wise, at the end of the day, very, very dependent upon if Jared Goff plays or not. If Jared Goff plays and they run their empty on third down and they're doing a good job of taking advantage of that defense, especially the secondary, I think the Rams have a chance to win this game, absolutely, especially because Russell Wilson hasn't been on top of his game the last couple of weeks. He's been a little bit more turnover happy, which is not going to win you games in the playoffs. But ultimately, I think playoff Russ and the Seattle Seahawks team gets the job done. If I were a betting man, I would bet on them. That's all I got to say for this one, though, guys. Hope you enjoyed this preview. Hope you enjoyed this prediction. If you did, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back in the week with some more content. Stay safe, wash those hands, and I'll see you guys next time.